Well, welcome, my friends. Usually we are discussing points of archery. Today we're going to do something a little different. It's not going to be about archery, but it's going to be about politics. I'm a Canadian, and I see the Canadian political scene unfolding, and I've decided to uh, vote for a man called Maxime Bernier. Maxime was a conservative. Now he's the head of the People's Party of Canada. So I think we should discuss his platform. The main reason why I'm voting for him is because I believe in freedom. I actually did vote for the Liberals in the last election because I wanted to see the war on drugs end. I'm tired of seeing thousands of people going to jail for no reason at all, and this type of thing, and families being ruined. I could tell you some stories. Maybe I will later on, but right now we're talking about Maxime. So anyhow, I'm a gun owner. I've owned guns since I was 7 years old. My mother bought me a BB gun when I was 7, a Daisy, and a single-shot Cooey when I was 9, and a 14-shot Lakefield when I was 14. And of course, when I was 18, I was in the Canadian Army with a big boy's rifle. Anyhow, shooting is a lot of fun. It's a great sport. It's a good family activity. It's a good time when you can get close to your son and show him some things, or your daughter. It's neat. My mother bought me a gun. It's neat. When I was about 9, 10 years old, I went to Silverthorne Public School here in Toronto. And at that time, that would be, say, like 1954, 1955, around there. And they used to take all the boys in my class, and the girls went to home ec, and the boys went down into the basement where they had a .22 range, or a gun range, and they taught us to shoot bolt action .303s, but in .22 caliber. So the Toronto School Board taught us to shoot guns to kill Koreans. That's why. They didn't say that, but that was at the end of the Korean War, and we were at war with Korea. It's okay. Didn't make anybody demented. I grew up and became a soldier. The school board did it. It was perfectly okay. Every kid I knew had a BB gun or a pellet gun. We had great times with them. That's the fun involved. Another thing, personally, I really resent being treated like somebody who has to be controlled. I am not Mark Lepine. I never shot any girls. I never intended to. I never ever thought of it in my whole life. Never. And I'm not going to accept the responsibility for Mark Lepine and have my property just taken for no reason. Nonsense. Anyhow, that's a little bit about me. But a little bit about Max now. A fair gun policy for Canada. This is his platform. There's a lot more to it than just this, but I'm going to talk about this first. Make firearms safety courses more widely available. That makes common sense. And you know something? I bet you if you took these little black kids from the ghetto who are into the gangs and like shooting each other, if you took them to a gun range and taught them how to shoot the way I was taught to shoot when I was a boy, it would take the magic out of it. It would just be a regular thing. And at that time, the old guy could say to him, and you know what, son? If you read your FAC book and passed your test, you could have a gun like this. and then just let the kid shoot one round without his earmuffs on. And he probably would never want to shoot a gun again anyhow. Lighten up. You know, these little black kids, mostly black, that's their culture. They're into, rap music and all this stuff, and that's what you do. You snap a cap, right? Well, it's nonsense. They're really not bad kids. Most of them don't have a dad, stuff like that. They're not really bad kids. Anyhow, double the length of firearms licenses from 5 to 10 years. It's just nonsense the way it is now. Every 5 years you have to renew your license. But if you forget to renew it, they come and take everything you got. How fair is that? In Canada, we like to be fair, right? That's what we talk about, being fair. What's fair about not giving a person a break who's not done a damn thing other than forget to renew their license because they only go shooting once a year or something and take everything they got? Nonsense. Boy, oh boy. I'm telling you. Classify firearms based on function, not appearance. Yeah, the head gun constable or whatever they call him has just out and out taken certain guns that just look neat, and oh, it's a bad gun. Writes a little letter and they're banned. No reason for it whatsoever. Just completely arbitrary. That's nonsense, Repeal magazine size restrictions. There's another stupid thing, All my magazines are pegged to 5 rounds. That's what the law says. But if a guy was loony, you could take the pegs out, right? So what's to stop you, Also, I compete in IPSC, and I tape magazines together. So even on a gun where it's only 5 rounds, I got 3 taped together. It's just, pop, pop, click, pop, pop, click, pop, pop. It's not that fat or that slow anyhow. So if a guy is a nut, he can do stuff, and very few people are nuts. It's very unfair to treat all of us like we're immature children and not responsible and not adults, because we are responsible and we are adults. Reimburse gun owners for property loss resulting from previous government gun grabs and end future grabs. Absolutely, About 20 years ago, I sent a gun down to the United States to have it repaired, and while it was down there, they wrote a law saying the feather is prohibited. Guns coming back through customs, and bang, it's gone. $850 gone. Not even a thank you, other than it's gone. Then I sent a scope down there a few years ago to be repaired. They wouldn't ship it back. They said, oh no, if we ship anything from the States up there, we're going to get in trouble. So there was my scope. But, it's very arbitrary and it's very unfair to take people's property. People don't like it when you just take their farm and build a highway. They don't, but it's done, People don't want their property taken. It's personal. Why? It's personal. So he's saying that we should be given money back. I should get $850 back or something for my gun that was basically stolen. Reclassify firearms through law in Parliament instead of the RCMP or Cabinet. Absolutely, Like where else in society do we have somebody write the law and then enforce it? Parliament writes the law, the cops enforce it. We don't have cops writing the law and cops enforcing it. That's nonsense. Isn't it? Isn't that nonsense? How fair is that? Remember that fair word? We're Canadians and we're very fair. Canadian firearms laws are broken and I want to fix them. Well, he's just saying that, the system is screwed up, and really it is. Stop the harassment of law-abiding gun owners. Really, for 30 years, that's all that's happened is, confiscation of guns, or you get a place like, there used to be a place called Cold Creek, and everybody in Toronto would go there for free, you know, and there was a big mound, and they would shoot in there, and people would have fun. It went on for years and years and years and years. And then they got the Friends of Cold Creek. Next thing, nobody's got a place to shoot anymore, right? The Friends, yeah, your friends will take care of you, all right. Respect the rights of firearms owners. You know, firearms owners are a minority. They should have their rights protected like other minorities. They are not responsible for the murders. They did not do it. They're innocent. You know, if a kid commits a crime, you should not hang the father. Does that make sense? Does that seem fair? Anyhow, this is the kind of thing that I think has swayed me towards Max. Just being treated fairly. And I'll tell you something. I knew a guy who, gun owners are treated very harshly. I knew a guy who was out at a pistol range in a competition, and he didn't close the padlock on his case. So he didn't clasp it. He was just driving home. Didn't do it. They took everything he owned. They didn't just say, "Oh, you're a bad boy, listen, here's $100 fine," or something. They took everything he owned. Nobody was in his car. It was just like, it's a little bit heavy, you know, a bit heavy. I mean, everybody passes tests, you know, has their guns locked up. They know the law, you know, you have to, a non-restricted gun, you know, you don't even have to have a padlock on it, you know, but I always put a padlock on mine anyhow, and you can keep it in a soft bag. Restricted gun has to go in a hard case, that's all, with a padlock on the gun and on the case. You know, Canadians are very responsible. Just attacking Canadian citizens because they own a piece of property and making them bad people because of it is hysterical. It's nonsense. Anyhow, that's the kind of thing that I feel, you know. I remember another guy. He was married to the nastiest woman I ever met. I met her a couple of times at the club. Nasty. Anyhow, this guy was the wimpiest guy I ever saw in my life. Wouldn't hurt a fly. But she decides to take him for all his money, and she says, "Oh, and I'm afraid of him because he has guns." They took everything he owned. About 2 years later, he shows up, he's got his stuff back. But, you know, it was really hard to get stuff back. I knew another guy. He lived in an apartment. He had his safe screwed right to the floor. Anyhow, people saw him, I guess, going in and out of his apartment, and so they decided to steal his guns. So they break into his apartment. They pry open the safe. You know, they're really tin boxes. You pry it open, take his gun out. The cops charged him for illegal storage. Was that fair? I could tell you a lot more. But anyhow, as far as I'm concerned, if you want to save your gun property and be treated like a normal citizen in Canada, vote for Maxime. That's what I believe. And so that's what swung me. Now, we're going to go into other things that he's talking about later on. This was the first little comment that I had to say about it. I've become disillusioned with Justin. I have become disillusioned with Bill Blair. Bill never seems to do anything quite fair. He really has the mentality of a retired policeman, but, you know, he thought that way for so long that, you know, he's very controlling, you know. And anyhow, that's how I feel. So I don't think that the gun owners of Canada are going to get a fair shake. You know, we haven't so far. Anyhow, if you want to save your gun property in Canada, vote for Maxime. And I'll talk to you later. Have a good night. Bye now.